say don't plan on us doing a show Wednesday night because I don't know if it's going to happen. And you've got Observer, and we're going to be doing a lot of shows this weekend.
Yeah, but the Wednesday Night Dynamite's a really big show, though.
Well, we'll figure something out. Yeah. We'll figure something out. But anyway, we've got news to get into today, so tell us about Jeff Cobb.
He's going to WWE. He left New Japan, held the tag team titles for like 9 days or something. He went on the 6th.
Why'd they put these belts on him?
I don't think they knew he was going.
We all knew he was going. I knew he was going.
Well, they didn't know he was going. If they it's a booking error. He wasn't under contract. And, I mean...
that right there's a booking error.
Yeah, well, I think so. I think it's a lesson that you don't put belts on people that are under contract. I couldn't say because I can't get into their heads. I don't think that they knew when he was leaving. So I think that's the issue right there. So they didn't know when he was leaving, and so they put the belts on him and wanted to use him to elevate Cal Newman, and they did that. And then he left suddenly. I think that they were not expecting it to be this soon. Obviously, they were not expecting it this soon because they literally put the belts on him on the 6th. So if they thought he was leaving now, there's no way in hell they would have done that. So, he got the call, and maybe they were figuring. I don't know. I can't get into their heads. Maybe they were figuring that they made him a star, and he moved to Japan. He loves New Japan Pro Wrestling, and therefore he would give notice and give them time. And that didn't happen. And I shouldn't say that. He gave them for Friday. So he gave him like 5 days notice. Maybe they thought they'd give like a month's notice, and then when the time came, they could get the belts off of him. But my presumption is that WWE wanted him for Sunday or Monday, and that was that. And that's the third guy in recent weeks, or third person in recent who WWE had that was champion of the organization. I mean, Ricky Starks, it's a minor title, it's Defy, it's not a big deal, but he literally won the title, and then WWE called, and that was that. So they had to vacate their title. And Stephanie Becerra, she actually had a championship match booked on the San Jose Fantastic Mania show last year, and they basically, it's funny because she did an interview. It was a really interesting interview. She talked about what actually happened in her mind as far as what went down. And I had heard, the only thing that was new to me in the Stephanie Becerra interview was I knew that AEW was trying to get her after the Mercedes match at Forbidden Door, and I knew that WWE, as soon as they saw that match, they wanted her. Okay, and I know that she picked WWE. What I didn't know was the thing about that AEW's offer was far more, and that she went with and told she first talked to WWE. The gist of it is she told CMLL that she had an outside offer, and they said, yeah, well, we figured you're gonna get an offer from AEW after that match, and they're interested. And she goes, oh no, WWE. And it's like, okay, WWE, AEW's gonna call you too. So she went talked to WWE, and then AEW called her, and AEW's offer was much better than WWE's offer. And the thing is that she grew up and WWE was her dream, so she was all messed up basically over. How can I turn down the much better offer? So she goes to WWE, which is a smart thing to do, and go like, look, this is what they offered me, figuring that if WWE really wanted her, they would match the offer, at least come close. And WWE told her to take the AEW offer. So then she's really messed up because she doesn't want to go to AEW. Shawn Michaels ends up calling her and talks her into it. And she calls her dad. Her dad just goes, go where you're going to be happy. Shawn Michaels calls her and convinced her to take the lower offer, go to NXT. No, I should mention that I did know this, that when WWE called her originally, it was like, you can start in the main roster. You can pick the choice. Do you want to start in the main roster? Do you want to start in NXT? And she said, I want to start in the main roster. So that was, start in the main roster. Then AEW offered more money. Then Shawn calls her and essentially by then it's like, no, I want to start at NXT. So she started at NXT, which was better for her. I think she's much better. Honestly, money-wise, she's probably making a lot less money. Well, she is than she would have. But as far as exposure goes and everything like that, and as far as making a name, the move to NXT was probably the best thing for her name, because on the main roster, I don't think that they would have pushed her anywhere near as much. And AEW, I don't think would have given her the exposure. They might have, but I don't think not the level of what NXT gave her. I don't see her winning any championships right away in AEW. But it was an interesting look. But one of the things that she brought up was, when she talked to WWE, is like, I have 3 belts, which actually she was wrong about because she actually lost one of the 3 before the WWE thing. And WWE actually wanted to put her on NXT television before she had signed, when she still had those 2 belts, which were the CMLL singles and tag, and she just wanted to be professional and all that. But it came down to they had her booked for the San Jose show for the CMLL women's title against Juvia, and she turned down that booking, even though she'd been advertised for months for the show, and worked the WWE show because WWE wanted her to do that. And that was the direction she was going. But it was WWE has no concern over anything that these people do in their home promotion. And same thing with Cobb as well. I don't think that Cobb wanted to leave without dropping the title. I don't think that he is that type of a person. But I think that they pretty much that's the issue. They wanted him to start a certain day, and I suppose Ghetto could have switched around because he was going to work one last show, which is on actually it's on Saturday night, not Friday night. He's going to be working on Saturday night at Corcoran Hall in a singles match with Tanahashi. One of the things with Ghetto though is that if you have a championship and it's out that you're leaving, he would just as soon, based on his history, because with Nakamura did stay, he could have dropped the title. Maybe WWE told him not to. I never knew what the story was there, but he never dropped the Intercontinental title when he left. Was there example? Okada, when it came out, Okada was leaving. He was still Trios champion, and he had plenty of matches left, and he could have, they could have booked him to drop the Trios title. He didn't have to lose the fall. I mean, he never lost any falls on the way out. He beat Tanahashi in their last match. He won all his match, or he didn't get beat. He didn't put anybody over on the way out when he went to AEW. And the thing is, and that one, Okada did give him time, and Nakamura did give him time, but everybody knew that they were leaving, so he didn't book them to lose because I guess the feeling is that they all know he's leaving, and it's too predictable that if we put him in a title match, they're going to lose. So he didn't bother to do that. So that's a different situation. And I guess it would be the same thing here is that if he changed the card and put Goto and Yoshihashi against Callum Newman and Cobb on Saturday night, people already knew that Cobb was leaving or would have known, so they didn't bother to do it. I mean, the thing is with Cobb is Cobb was going to be in the main event on the second night of Dontaku in Fukuoka, which I believe is May the 4th, against Goto for the IWGP title, and he had been doing promos over the weekend and on the Friday show in Chicago. I mean, Walker Stewart, I couldn't tell you how many times brought up, Cobb and Goto, like never saying it was a definite, but you never say it's a definite in New Japan, until they make the official announcement. But he was sure hinting at. I mean, I watched that show and it's like, oh yeah, Cobb and Goto was coming up. I didn't know which show. I thought maybe on the May 9th show. Actually, I thought it was the May 9th show in Ontario that he was going to do that, but that didn't happen. And it was going to be the Fukuoka show. And then they got the word that Cobb was gone, and so it's going to be Goto against Callum Newman, which is a unique main event. I mean, it's a substitution and everything. They're trying to. The big thing is they're really going to try to get Callum Newman over, and he's good. He's really good. But it's really fast, by their standards, to have a guy who came in basically to be a young guy in the United Empire and loses matches to be the guy who takes the fall, and then he keeps getting better and better and better, and his speed spots are really good. He got bigger, and he's going to be in the main event, and he's going to be the single star of that group. It looks like with Okan. Hanari hasn't been around, I don't think, lately. So that's the deal. So Cobb's almost 43. I mean, I can get it. I mean, last year I was certainly under the impression that he would be looking to go to WWE, and I thought that WWE would probably take him. He'd made enough of a name. He's impressive as hell. And when I've been watching him of late, with the mentality of he's probably going to WWE at some point this year, it really stood out to me that if booked right, physically, I mean, he could really get over in WWE because he can do a lot of really acrobatic stuff, great drop kick, all the power stuff. I think that he could do really well, and especially like what they did with Bronson Reed and everything. And it's like, him and Bronson Reed are very different wrestlers, but they're both, kind of short powerhouses. Bronson Reed's much bigger, but Cobb's more muscular and far more athletic and do a lot more. And and I think in some ways, but as far as like outside, when they were in Japan, when they were in PWG, I mean, Cobb was the better of the two and the more charismatic of the two. I mean, Reed does have charisma, so I'm not going to say that like necessarily Cobb will show up in WWE more charismatic than Reed, but based on what they've done in other places, Cobb was always ahead of him. So, it's and again, from the Cobb standpoint, I know he loved New Japan, and you get that age, and you start having injuries and things like that, and that's when we start thinking that like it's time to make. If there's a chance to make big money, it's the time to go. So I understand the timing, but obviously it was very, very sudden and makes New Japan booking look real bad. Put a championship on a guy, and then a week later he leaves without losing it.
Right, man.
Very similar. She put a post up, basically saying that I forgot the exact words, but it was saying there are no mistakes on your journey because you want to get to where you want to be or something. It's all part of the trip of getting to where you want to be. She had a photo of Orlando, Florida, and I know from people in WWE that that she has been there. They know she wants to go there. I think people saw that cryptic thing. I don't know when her contract is up. Everyone seems to think it's this summer that it's up. And, it's another one.
I was given the impression it was a 2-year deal that she signed originally, so I guess you can do the math.
That would be the summer.
But I have heard the same thing, that at least in AEW there's a belief that she's heading to WWE.
Well, I think that explains something because, when they did that blow-off match with Mariah May, and I was going like, God, why are you doing the blow-off match? This is like one of the hottest feuds you've ever had, and now you're just going to blow it off. And they did that awesome blow-off match. And then she hasn't been on TV since, and she wasn't put in the tournament. And with Tony, when he thinks someone's going, he takes them off TV, and she's been off TV. I thought, I was even talking to some people, and it's just like, why isn't she with Megan Bayne? Why is Penelope Ford with Megan Bayne? Mariah is so much bigger of a star. The two of them together would make like a perfect heel team to go after Toni Storm and various partners. So you can kind of break up. You don't always have to do singles matches. And they could be a long-term team. And I think that's the answer is that he felt she was leaving, and it's time to go to Megan Bayne right away. And that's it for Mariah May. I mean, it's an interesting one because I think in the same situation, again, I don't know what the offers are out there, but I would think because Mariah really is to a degree. I mean, I think Tony looks at her not as a AEW creation because she made her name in Stardom, but she was just someone on the roster in Stardom. Nice look and everything, and got better. But she became, she's long run as AEW Women's Champion. And in one of, Tony Khan's most hands-on programs that he's ever done, out of the box, not traditional wrestling. And it clicked. I mean, it's one of his real big success stories. And she was, Toni Storm is the biggest part, but Toni Storm would not be as big as she is without Mariah May. I mean, Mariah May really, where Toni Storm was, if you go back before the program got big and where she is today, I mean, she is so much bigger, and it's because of that program. And Mariah May is as well. So it's an interesting one because like I said, my gut is that that AEW would offer her a lot more than WWE. I don't know that, but I would think so. And I think that was of no concern because, again, I mean, I remember long before Mariah May ever went to, she was in Japan, but before she signed with AEW, I mean, I remember, people who were good friends with her, and they just said her dream is WWE, and that's still the thing. And again, and performing on that stage and everything, it's a more intoxicating stage, as far as all those people, and you have WrestleMania and all that. And I mean, I know a lot of veterans from years back who would be looking at these decisions and just going like rolling their eyes. You know what I mean? Because that whole generation it's only about the money. And this generation is, in fact, not like that at all. And I'm not saying one is better than the other, but it shows the complete difference in the generations because, I would just say, like, when I saw like Stephanie Vaquer going like, oh yeah, the offer was so big and it broke my heart because I wanted to go to WWE, and and WWE even told her take their offer, and it's just like she still went to WWE, and then I'm not even saying it's the wrong decision or anything, but I could just imagine like a wrestler from the '80s looking at this going like, what are you thinking when it's a significant difference? And what are you in the business for? And the thing is like those guys were in the business to make money. They were not in the business of having great matches. They were not in the business of being arts, doing art. I know some people will talk about like, it always cracks me up when people talk to me about like stuff in the '80s, and they'll go like, and if I bring up something like, didn't draw, and they'll go, who cares? It's great art. And it's like, I never heard a wrestler in the '80s ever talk about art. They liked the idea that, if they had a good match and the crowd was up for it and everything like that, they absolutely liked it. And there were guys who absolutely wanted to have great matches. But, the calling card was, it was always like, hey, look, this guy's a great match, but can he draw? A great wrestler, but can he draw? It was never about the great match in and of itself. It was the great match leading to something, and now, it's just the great match. And some people get really upset about that too. But it's just a different era. You have the people who want to be in WWE, and you have the people who just want to go out there, and have great wrestling matches. That's what they want. And the money, which is the best it's ever been in the history of the business, but the money is not the main driving force, so it is really, it's really interesting to watch how this unfolds. And right now, again, a lot of people came up when there was nothing but WWE. WCW was dead when these people are in their 20s. WCW was dead when they were 2 years old. You know what I'm saying? So it's only been WWE, and it's only been that whole brainwashing WrestleMania moment stuff. And, that's what it is. And that's more important than the dollar sign. The guys from that era, do you think that they would, my God, would they have loved this schedule? Like one match every 2 weeks? It doesn't matter which company you're in, or one match a week at most, unless it's pay-per-view week. And even then, it's usually only one match. And, 1 day a week on the road most weeks.